morning, or good evening to wherever this finds you. Welcome to the Funhawg Pod with your hosts, Matt Cook and Butch Mayhew. Let's let that fun ensue.
Butch, tell me about any awkward text messages that you've received recently.
Well, as you were a few minutes late to this meeting, you wrote to me, going to be cutting grass. It close. It was great. It was great. I was like, so you cutting grass? You going to be close? You got to pick up the kids because of rain? Yeah, it was great. It was great.
There's a book by Matt Moshari, The Great CEO Within. And in that book, he talks about being on time. And he just says, look, you know 100% of the time if you're going to be late. And as soon as you have even an inkling that you might be late, the only right way to deal with that situation is to let somebody know. So that's what I was thinking. I had to pick up my boys today. There was a pretty big threat of rain. And so I had to pick them up. And so I was in school car line. And I thought, there's a chance I'm going to be late. I better text Butch. It had nothing to do with the grass, but
wonderful.
Such is life.
Well, we're glad we're here. Hopefully everyone got their grasses cut as it's springtime and there's pollen and the eclipse happened. That was a thing.
Did you see the eclipse?
I looked up in the sky with one of those box things because we didn't buy the glasses.
You didn't buy any glasses.
We didn't buy the glasses, but we built the boxes. You know, the old school boxes where you put a hole in and you got the tin foil with a little poke the hole. And we used those for like 30 minutes, but it was all cloudy and we didn't see anything.
Do you think that was NASA certified? Because I had NASA certified glasses.
Oh, buddy. You paid the big bucks on that? Like $450?
Actually, I've got a great story around the not sunglasses, solar eclipse glasses. Some of my dear friends from Shipped, they started a company, Link, and I'm not exactly sure how they made the leap from digital business cards to solar eclipse glasses, but I was perusing the LinkedIn's about a week ago, and Elliot posted that somehow they had bought 1 million. they made a huge bet on themselves, and they purchased 1 million solar eclipse glasses. And in support of my friends, I purchased 50.
Nice.
And created just a family challenge to, I'm calling it the modern day lemonade stand. And so I let them to my boys, and we were able to sell, we retained 5 for ourselves, and we sold 44. So we had one bit of unused inventory.
For the dog.
You know, it's not safe. There was something about don't let your pets outside during the solar eclipse. It's like, I don't think he could stare at the sun. But yeah, it just went. We had one that went unused. But yeah, so I think it was a pretty successful endeavor for the Link guys. And so
nice.
I did.
Was that like like your challenge? 44 glasses. Is this in a week?
I let them know about it 4 days before, but they were all very excited. My 7-year-old, for the first time, initiated a conversation with a stranger, just walking down the street and selling. And overall, it was quite a successful kind of family experiment. So it was good stuff.
Please tell me somebody had like a trench coat and they just like, anybody want some glasses?
No, I don't think anybody sold out of the trench coat.
That's a shame. Next year.
Missed opportunity.
Next solar eclipse. What is that?
Yeah.
8 years? However long it is. So.
I did have some, so Totality was about 3 hours west of Memphis, kind of Little Rock area. And I had, quite a few people who went and experienced Totality. And I spoke to someone actually this morning who said it was a transcendent life experience. And he was so moved by it. He's thinking about going to South Dakota, I think, and is the next one, is where Totality's coming. Which, you hear the stories about all these like Airbnbs were like sold out in this huge range of the country, and it seems a little extreme, but the videos, they do look pretty cool. So
I hear you.
What,
That's
what's
exciting.
What's the percentage chance you're going to South Dakota to view the next solar eclipse?
-1. It's
Negative
not happening.
one.
Yeah, I'm not. It's not happening. I've got other things to do.
See, I'm a real stickler for details, and that's not a valid statistical answer. So I could get on board with 1% or
About
0.5%.
0.001.
Hard commit. You are definitely not going. Okay. Do you have
I'm
anything?
not planning on it, right? If
Yeah.
for some crazy reason I'm in the area and it's like a 30-minute drive, hey, we'll go check it out. But not planning to take any family trips up there for a solar eclipse.
I think I would. I'm trying to think what the driving distance is. 3 hours is pretty doable from Memphis. Yeah. Yeah. Can you think of anything on par with a solar eclipse that you would drive a great distance to see?
An event? I don't know.
Yeah.
I would go drive to a sports game or a concert of a band I really enjoy. But
What about a Mother Nature related event?
I mean, I would drive to go hike somewhere in nature. I would do that. But I mean, a solar eclipse, it's like I don't know. I don't I understand some people it's like life changing, but it's also like it's just physics, light covering up. I mean, we can do this right here. Oh, here we go. Eclipse time. It's over. I don't know. I do see the hype around getting a bunch of people together and getting excited about something.
It seems like a great group experience. Maybe we can get some folks on the podcast who have experienced the solar eclipse for some.
That would be great. We're on a podcast. We're doing this thing.
So our word for this episode is Funhawg. Butch, did you get the memo that the word for this episode is Funhawg?
I got the memo, and I've got some thoughts around what Funhawg means to me. Because I don't know if there's an official definition.
I don't think you're going to find it in the dictionary, but I think it's a word that it's. I was thinking of what words we might have with this kind of concept of having a word for each episode, and it's tricky to come up with words that would be fun to discuss. But in general, I think the guidelines are it's a word that is not commonly used, or its common use is perhaps is used incorrectly. That would be kind of interesting. But in general, it should be a word that perhaps you should use more. So I think Funhawg fits that definition squarely. Take it away. What does Funhawg mean to you?
Funhawg. Let's go ahead and get the spelling, because I know that's important, because people are like, Funhawg, what does that mean? And we have accents and whatnot. So F-U-N, you have to dub this over, right? Funhawg. Funhawg. Like we're in the hogs. Like, what is that? Arkansas? They got the hogs, right?
Arkansas.
Yeah,
Woo pig
Arkansas.
suey.
Yeah. So Funhawg. And this is a play on words from Funhawg, H-O-G, where you're hogging things. But we kind of made this our own, right? Because the domain was available.
Yeah. This is just like Fun H-O-G, except for the domain was available. Great distinction.
Right. That's right. So when I think about Funhawg, hogging all the fun, some may say, I think, there's a couple different ways to think about that, right? You can be selfish, hog all the fun to yourself, or you can bring the fun and let everybody else hog the fun. And over the past week, just thinking about this, I definitely fall on the side of like trying to bring the fun and trying to allow others to experience fun and enjoyment and laughter. And yeah, that's what I'm about. That's what I've determined this week.
I like it. I like it a lot. Are you familiar with the thinking of like there's a glitter parent and a glue parent? And most parents
explain it to me like I'm 5.
Gotcha. Yeah, so there's a glitter parent and a glue parent. The glitter parent kind of sounds like what you were describing there, the person who tries to bring the fun, and the glue is the person that holds it all together. So generally a little bit less fun, but makes a very important contribution. So now
Make
that you
sure the
understand
kids are in bed by like 10, right?
That's exactly it. Glitter parent, always pushing bedtime later. Glue parent, making sure bedtime happens. So I'm the glitter parent for sure in our
I think I
family.
am too. Except I don't do glitter. Glitter gets everywhere. It's a mess.
I,
I encourage
I
my kids not to, but it does happen.
I also do not like glitter itself, but I did like the explanation. The way I think about Funhawg is I think about like a super powerful electromagnet. It's fun, and it just even stronger than that. I don't actually know the physics term for it, but kind of like a black hole is what fun is, and Funhawg is just vortexes and everything comes on in. Man,
When I think about a magnet, right, and it's super strong, it's like pinch your finger hard. Like it's gonna pull your finger off if you
exactly.
get it stuck
There's
in one
all
of those
kinds of
magnets.
warnings, particularly in the state of California. This is not a safe magnet, and so everything's kind of being absorbed into it. But yeah, you know those people who are just so fun to be around. You can't help but smile. I had a college roommate he was an incredible fun hog. He was the Tiger Cub, like the Clemson mascot, and he was just a he was born to be an entertainer. He was hilarious, and he was always just playing fun games, and you couldn't ever make him laugh, and you couldn't corner him if you tried to like. We like to like play insults with each other, and we would always try to put each other down. Anytime you tried to get him, he could always flip it back on you. So he's somebody I think of when I think of fun hogs. Who's somebody you think of when you think of fun hogs?
I mean, going through that scenario, like I had a guy in my high school days. So my name is Butch, by the way, but that's not my real name. My birth name, well, it is my real name, but my birth name is William Brent. And I can think about in high school, I met this guy. His name was Troy, and he was our Sunday school group leader. And I walked in the first day and said, "Hey, my name is Brent." And the first thing he said was, "We already have a Brent. We got to call you something else." And by the end of the day, it was like, "We're going to call you Butch." And that's how Butch was born. And fun fact, he was also an Auburn Albie mascot when he was in college. And he was one of those guys that just brings the fun, somebody that you want to be around, somebody that makes you laugh, somebody that connects people in fun ways. And that's funny you said that. But that's one person I can think of. There was actually a duo, Randy and Troy, and they were big fun hog influences in my life. Doing all sorts of crazy stuff, like just crazy stuff. Like I can remember back to prom, right? So prom
It's
night,
high school prom.
lots of things can happen. We had our youth pastor invited all the youth who went to prom to come spend the night at his house, basically. So it was come, hang out, watch movies, stay up all night, do whatever. And we roll up, and our youth pastor, dude, has a coattail jacket, like coattails, like to the knees. And he's over here, like, making breakfast, cooking bacon and cooking, those like little sausage pancake things,
Ooh,
corn
yes.
dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was
Pigs
like
in a
making
blanket?
those. Pig, it's pig in the blanket, but it's like it's sweet and yeah,
Ooh,
corn doggy.
corn
So
dog.
it was like he had all these corn dogs and hot dogs for like kids, and I'm like, this is great. It was fun. It was one of the most memorable like times of just like hanging out with people, being around fun people.
I love it. I think youth pastors, if you're a youth pastor, you probably have to be a fun hog. It'd be tough to be a serious persona stuck in a youth pastor job. That wouldn't be very fun. I had a great youth pastor growing up, Captain Davo, we called him. Captain Davo, I hope you get to hear this podcast. That would be great. I'm gonna reach out to Captain Davo. I think he works at a bank now, which is probably not as fun as his youth pastor gig, but we had so much fun with him. I remember one time he was like the main speaker at our I don't know, the World Changers I think we were at, and so he would do kind of the main presentation for the night, and then we would all go to bed, and he would kind of come in the room late. And, you know, so it was like, I don't know, 1 a.m. or something, he would get in bed. And at this particular one, we were sleeping in the math classroom. And it was kind of all, I don't know, 30, 40 guys all sleeping on the floor on cots and stuff. And we took his cot and we hid it in another room, like completely just, you know, so he comes in the room at 1 a.m. and everybody actually was asleep and he just doesn't have anywhere to sleep that night. I don't actually recall where he ended up sleeping, but the next night I came to get in my sleeping bag, and I mean it was like he had poured 40 gallons of water in it. And it was like a down sleeping bag. So I mean it was completely ruined. And I was like, "Oh man, like I gave you an inconvenient night of sleep and you ruined my sleeping bag." So oh man, those were good times.
Hopefully, there's water under the bridge at this point.
Oh yeah, we got over it. But I think that's a key aspect of Funhawg. Are there any boundaries on Funhawg from your perspective?
I think there are boundaries, but I think the boundaries are different based on the groups you're in, right? And I think boundaries can be pushed, if that makes sense. So, thinking about just a fun hog or a fun hog in a group of people. Typically, I think of groups when I think of fun. Like, yes, you can go do fun hog on your own, like, climb Mount Everest or whatever. Well, you're not on your own because there's lots of lines and stuff. But think of another difficult mountain that maybe not a lot of people climb, right? You do that on your own. Yeah, you can have fun. But when I think about fun hog, I think about in a group setting. That's the main way I've experienced that. And, I think a lot of that comes with a culture where I know in different groups I've been in, we would do things that were acceptable. Things like, it sounds weird, okay? But taking your finger and sticking it in your chicken sandwich. Like, that seems like you probably don't want to do that. But if you've got a culture where that's like acceptable and showing that, like, hey, I care for you, this is a fun thing to do. That's a thing. Now, that's not acceptable in every single group, right? Some people are going to flip tables for that. But in my specific group, kind of growing up, like that was an acceptable thing in our group.
If there's any middle school boys listening, maybe stick your finger in your chicken sandwich. And that's probably a fun thing in your age group. Yeah.
The key is you got to stick it all the way in, like go all the way to the bottom. Like don't just stop in the bread.
Yeah.
All the way down.
You got to commit. I do think that's a key to Funhawg is you got to be more committed than people expect you to be.
100%.
Yeah. Like if you're jumping in a pool because it's cold, you got to jump all the way in, like head underwater. You can't just like dip your toe in kind of thing. If you want to be funny, you got to commit.
Or like scream like a girl, which like own it. Like you're jumping in. It's going to be crazy. Don't scream like a girl unless you are a girl.
Then scream like a girl. Yeah.
Scream like a girl.
I love it. Yeah. I like it. You gotta commit all the way to be the fun hog. Is there anything that is not a fun hog to you?
I think things that are not a fun hog are going to be, they're going to be things that it's where you put yourself in front of others, right? So maybe you are being super competitive on a game of street hockey. Let's just go there. Street hockey. Super competitive, whacking people with sticks so you can go score a goal. Like that's no good, man. Like you're putting your drive, your desire, and you're harming people with it. That's not fun.
100%.
No matter how much fun you're having, that's not fun. That's not a fun hog.
Yeah, you can't have fun at other people's expense. Fun story here. I remember when we were a young married couple in Charleston, South Carolina, and we were hanging out with other young married couples, and we hosted a game night. I think you like games. I like games.
Please tell me it was Monopoly. I hear it coming.
Nope, not Monopoly. Scattergories. Have you played Scattergories?
I'm not, but that doesn't sound like something you can get angry about.
It doesn't seem like it should be, but it is. Super high level categories is you're provided a category and then you roll a 26-sided dice you get a letter of the alphabet. So let's say the category is athletes, and you have the letter C. Well, you can get you get kind of 1 point if you come up with like a single like their first name or their last name. Like I'm trying to think.
Cam Newton.
Yeah, Cam Newton. That would be worth 1 point, right? But if I said Caitlin Clark, that would be worth 2 points because both words start with C. And so there's a little bit of flavor to the game, and occasionally there's like song titles or Beatles songs or something like that, and so you can get this kind of run of, maybe 3 or 4 points in kind of one answer. But we played with this. I recall there being maybe 4 couples there, so 8 players, and it's a super lighthearted game, very fun, kind of engages everybody. But we had one guy who you vote on. Sometimes people stretch it a little bit too much. So if I don't know, I'm trying to think of an example here, but if it was notorious athletes, let's say, and you said Cam Newton, and it's like, well, he wasn't notorious. Effectively, we would have a vote to see whether or not that was accepted. And he was so strict on the voting. He voted anybody else's even remotely creative answer. He voted against it, and it really spoiled the fun. So I do think one person can spoil the fun for the group is a key aspect of kind of the anti-Funhawg. Is there a word for anti-Funhawg? What comes to mind for you?
Unfunhawg?
I really like thinking about anti-words. The book Anti-Fragile. Have you read that by chance?
I have not. Is that good? Should I read it?
It's a great book, very intellectual, very, very, very rigorous vocabulary. Nassim Taleb has it really challenged my understanding of a lot of words. But the idea of like the word fragile doesn't, like, robust is kind of maybe what people would think of, but robust is actually quite different than anti-fragile. And so that was kind of, the whole premise of the book is that anti-fragile is the only word that kind of captures that sentiment. So I'm trying to think anti-Funhawg. It would be like maybe Debbie Downer. Somebody who kind of spoils.
Enough of the culture knows that, where I think that could work. But that wouldn't work in another culture.
Yeah, well, that's fun. We're
like 100 years from now, when people are listening to this, like, they're not going to know what you're talking about. Debbie Downer. What?
All right. What? So we got you at -1% on chances you'll see the next solar eclipse. What are the percentage chances that someone will listen to this podcast in 100 years?
2%.
Higher than
at least, you said someone at some point, right? The AIs are going to go crazy. Our crazy government's going to classify AIs as like people or a person or some crazy stuff like that, and we'll check that box, I'm sure.
Maybe the word Funhawg becomes more prolific, and this is seen as the
beginning, the birth.
Well, it's not quite the birth. Let's talk about that. Where did you hear the word Funhawg first?
I heard the word Funhawg from a man named AJ, and I don't know all the story, but it's somebody me and you worked with.
Right. Yeah. So I'll tell my as best I can recall it. So I'm fairly certain the credit goes to AJ's mom, and so I know I first saw the word on the back of his Subaru, and so I just saw it and instantly thought, I love it. What brand is this? I was talking to him like, man, I gotta get some of that, and he was like, oh no, it's just a thing my mom did. I was like, what? That's such a cool word. And so yeah, I shout out to AJ's mom if you're listening. Really appreciate you for coming up with this great concept. And yeah, that was the birthplace of it. But hopefully we are the stewards of furthering its usage. You can kind of see a spike on the Google Trends chart, maybe, for the word Funhawg.
April 9th, 2024.
Yeah. You've dated us now.
You're not supposed to do that?
No, that's great. Yeah. So 2% chance that 100 years from now, somebody will listen to this. I'm trying to think how I feel about that. Have you ever heard the half-life theory?
I have not.
So when you're predicting events over a very long time horizon, so you could say, like, how long will The Wizard of Oz be popular? Wizard of Oz, I don't know when it was kind of first filmed or whatnot. I'm sure we could look it up.
It's when in color video. It's like the first color movie.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Early 1900s.
Yeah, so the Wizard of, we'll guess here. I'm going to say 19.
Oh, we're doing trivia now?
1944 is my guess. But so from, it has made it from now, or from, whenever it was kind of first created until now. And so if you were to predict when it will kind of cease to be popular or kind of go out of kind of mainstream thought, you would predict that it's at the halfway point. There was, I think it was maybe Freakonomics, the book, I think it was there. I don't, that doesn't sound right now that I think about it, but basically they were talking about like the Berlin Wall and having people estimate like when would it fall, and given the absence of any other data, your best guess is that you're at the halfway point of something's popularity, particularly when you think about Plato and Socrates, some of these longer lived kind of works of art. You would think, hey, we're probably halfway through their lives is the statistically most accurate guess. So this podcast has probably got 1 day left based on that theory. It's actually a question I had on my mind that I wanted to ask you, Butch. How many episodes are you committed to at this point? Like 100% committed to? Like you committed to one, this one's going out. Are you 100% committed to two?
100%. Yeah, definitely.
What about 5?
Yes.
10?
100%. 100%. 5. We can do 5.
Should we stretch it to 10 or we're just
stretch it to 10? Stretch it to 10.
I think 10 was the number I had in mind. Like, okay, I can commit
100% committed to 10. You go to 20?
Yeah.
Percent. We'll see how this thing goes.
We'll see. Yeah. All right. 100% committed to 10. You heard it here. So
I like that, the thought.
I do.
But I see the popularity thing is different than estimations, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to estimate that, but I mean, at some point in some way, that 2%, someone will hear it, or maybe ChatGPT does its thing and like references us at some point. Is that safe to say?
I'm fairly concerned about myself being memed because of something odd that I do. I think I'm very vulnerable to being memed.
How are you? Like, what fear do you have?
Just, you see like the college football games and like there's like the losing team and the guy who does the surrender cobra. If memes had been a thing when I was in college, I feel certain I would have been surrender cobra'd as just a Clemson fan who was devastated by a loss. That feels certain that I would have been the guy.
So what's the fear here?
Somebody's
gonna put googly eyes on your. I mean, that's great, right?
It's not something I truly like wake up scared of. I suspect that's something that might live on 100 years. Is like, hey, look, here's this guy Matt who thought he was going to start a podcast and be successful.
I think we need to dive deeper there. Like, what is that deeper fear that you're worried about there?
I just don't like
embarrassment.
Yeah, I don't like being picked on. I mean, I think that's it. It's not fun to be picked on.
Oh, I agree. Well, I will commit to back you up and not pick on you, unless it's out of love and you're laughing too. How about that?
I think I would laugh at myself if I got memed, but I would. Yeah, I go back to my old college roommate Clint and the Tiger Cub, and I think back, like he would just get you really good. You thought you had him on the ropes, and then very quickly you would realize the joke was on you.
Very nice.
I feel like I've increased the chances of getting memed.
I mean, you're throwing it out there.
Yeah, such is life.
Yeah.
What's a fear you have, Butch? Preferably an irrational
one. Mostly heights. I mean, it's semi-rational in that, yes, I can fall and hurt myself.
Sure.
But one flight of stairs or one 6 steps on the ladder, I'm good. I don't need more than that. One more step and I am irrationally scared that I'm going to fall off and break something. And it's really on me and my muscles and my ability to balance, right, for that not to happen. But my fear takes over, and that's just something I've accepted. So when I need stuff on my roof or leaves cleaned out or whatever, It's typically not me, or it's me wiring up some crazy contraption to, take care of the problems
Without having to climb a
without
ladder.
getting too high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Have you ever done like the Grand Canyon, or there's like that lookout where you're like standing on a clear platform, or there's a building in Chicago, Sears Tower maybe, that has that. Have you done either of those?
Me and Rebecca, when we were in Chicago, we went to the Sears Tower, waited in the line, we checked out. Looking this way is fine, but yeah, going out, looking down was good enough for me. I did not have to stand on it or, be in the little tilt thing where you sit here and it, clicks out a little. It's not for me. Could I do that if somebody like said, "Hey, I'll give you $50"? Heck yeah, I could. Do I want to? Heck no. I'd be like sweating and I'd just be really anxious and nervous irrationally, right? I mean, you see like 14 people do it and like a group of like four people go get in this thing. And it's like, one, they're crazy. What are you thinking? That's like four people. That thing could break, but no, it's not going to break. Or it shouldn't rationally, right? But that's where my brain goes. So
Yeah, man, the brain's a crazy place. We did. My son and I went to Valley Fair. It's a theme park up in Minnesota, and kind of roller coaster. Like Six Flags and that sort of deal. And so the purpose of the day was to ride roller coasters, which I love. And he had just turned 10, and so he was still feeling out what kind of relationship he wanted to have with roller coasters. He's a thrill seeker, but he was still figuring it out. And I was processing his feelings a lot just on the roller coaster parts. I love them, but man, the swings got me. We did one of those swings, but these were different kind of swings. They go maybe like, it felt like 60, 70 feet into the air, and then you go around. And I think I just had a corn dog or some kind of fair food or whatnot. And man, I didn't like that feeling. It's very unnerving when you're experiencing it. There's almost nothing you can do to tell your brain to stop. So
yeah. Yeah, that is not for me. I can handle roller coasters. I mean, going up is a little scary, right? Looking over the side and woo. But like once you get going, it's like we're rocking and rolling, we're going. But you get stuck at the top or something like that. I'm like, that's not for me. But yeah, those swings, I would never get on anything like that. That's crazy.
Speaking of heights, I rented a ladder this week from the hardware store. That was a fun experience.
How many feet?
32 feet. So,
Woo.
yeah, I've got a 24 foot, which I use for many tasks, but I decided I was going to paint my garage, and there was just the very apex of it. I really just needed like a 26-foot ladder, but they didn't have a 26, so I had to get the 32. Man, that's a heavy ladder. It's very difficult to maneuver with and kind of carry around. But yeah,
it's a big boy.
Yeah. My friends are texting me like, "Hey, don't fall off, bud," which I did not. So I was very happy to return the ladder, and yeah, I think everybody should rent a 32-foot ladder at some point in their adult life. It's a great experience.
Except for Blitch.
No, you should do it too.
I'll rent it and like just bring it right back, or pay somebody to climb up it, right? So, but it's good stuff, man. Well, any fun experiences you had over the last week? One.
Once you share yours, I'll be thinking of mine.
All right, sounds good. So, for me, like I said earlier, I like to bring the fun and to spread the fun. And this week on Sunday, my sons, they had a little youth cookout where we were playing kickball, right? Everybody knows kickball. Well, I asked, "Hey, do you mind if I lead this game and change it up a little bit?" And, the leaders are like, "Sure, go for it." So I changed it up and we played crazy kickball. All right. So crazy kickball, in my opinion, is much more fun than normal kickball. Because we played, I think there were like 12 or so folks, a good mix of guys and girls. And, you get 12 people, you're playing kickball for real. It's like, you're probably going to get 3 or 4 people, maybe 5 or 6 kicking, and then you swap, and it's just this I don't know. If you got really good defense, it's like you're not going to be able to kick that much. So the rules with crazy kickball is you don't care about outs. The only thing out does is prevent a run, and there's no force outs. So if somebody like kicks the ball in the air and they catch it, the kicker's out, but the runner can do whatever. And you extend the bases to more than just like a little base. Hula hoops work really well, and there's a rule that as many people as you can fit can be on base.
Love that. You just have to get 1 foot in the hoop, or
just 1 foot in the hoop.
Okay,
right.
So the touching it count, or it's got to be in the hoop.
What was that?
Touching it counts, or it's got to be in the hoop.
Sure, touching it counts. It's a base.
Yeah, it's a base. Okay, standard base rules.
However you want, like hoops, cones, whatever you need, but make it big enough so multiple people can fit there. So the idea is, right, the outfield is pitching to all 12 hitters. So everybody goes through the lineup, and they can run or not run, right? So if there's a little bunt down third base and there's 3 people on first, they may or may not go to second. Or if it's a fly ball to outfield, like you just run as fast as you can because there's no force outs. And we counted if you get hit in the head with the ball, like so there's no force out, so no like grabbing the ball and stepping on a base. So you had to like hit somebody with the ball in like the shoulders or below to get them out. If you hit them in the head, it's minus a point for your team. So there's some negative consequences. And we also made a rule that if you kick it in the woods, because we had like some woods that were like in the home run area or whatever, if you kick it in the woods, you're out and everybody has to go back to their bases. So like no like home runs officially unless you can just kick it and out dodge the balls that are flying at you. And it's a lot of fun. We played 2 points for each person that scored. So as long as you got more people out in the bases, you can win. But it was a crazy game. We played 3 innings. There was a 10-run like difference at one point, and the other team came back and won it. And
so it didn't have a mercy rule. There wasn't a 10-run.
There's no mercy rule because you think 12 batters, so you have a chance to score. How many ever points you have times 2, so you've got 24-point opportunity every time each team kicks, and so it was fun. It was kind of like shaking up the rules of kickball, and I think everybody had a good time. Even the unathletic people had a good time.
It's an impressive. I really enjoy game modifications, so that this is speaking to me. Did you come up with this all on your own, or did you kind of have the framework for it?
I came up with this about 3 years ago when I was thinking, how can we make kickball more fun and less like waiting to kick? So you cycle through real got the outfield and infield get to swap real quick. So I just pulled it back out of the rabbit out of the hat. You got to pull up those. It's a youth group game.
Yeah. Have you published this anywhere? I mean, this could be the first major piece.
Let's do it. We'll post it out on the Funhawg blog.
Yes, Funhawg Games. Certified Funhawg Games. I like it.
There it is. Yeah, we got it.
I'm not sure I dig the greatness penalty. That's what I call it when you can't hit home runs, or you can only hit a limited number of home runs.
No. You can hit home runs. You can kick it as far as you want. So like the way we had the base was like, all right, so here's like the diamond, and like up on this hill, we just had limited space. It went up a hill and those just woods, but you could kick it this far as long as you wanted. Just don't kick it in these woods.
It's kind of like the green. Was it like the Green Monster in Boston?
It's kind of like that, except so one side was really short, but it's like, don't make somebody go through the thorns. Just kick. If you want to go deep, you just kick it down the third base line, and that way. There was plenty of space that way. So you could really let it rock. Just don't force people to go get thorny.
Yeah, I got you. I actually think that's an underutilized concept from baseball, right? So each baseball stadium has slightly different dimensions, and so you end up with, there's a short porch to left or right field, and so it favors kind of certain types of hitters. Or, I think it's the Astros I think they still have the center field that has like the slight hill in it. It's just, I think that's great. There was in the NCAA tournament, in the women's tournament, there was. One of the 3-point lines was a little bit short on one side, which is, some big error, and Obviously, it'd be nice if somebody could measure basketball courts accurately. But I think it's a great concept.
I
Like,
mean, you flip sides. It's fair. You each had the same amount of time on each goal,
right, well,
right?
and what they once they figured it out, the coaches agreed, and they played that way. They did I saw an analysis of the percentages, and they were a little bit better from the short side, as you might expect. But I think that'd be a really interesting aspect of the game. I mean, you think about like football games, if it's a very windy day, and particularly if it's kind of going with the field, generally thrown into the wind is pretty difficult, but with it is an advantage. But I think more unusual shaped, just not like crazy shapes, but just, hey, this end zone's 12 yards deep. This one's 15 yards deep.
Or what if like the out of bounds like angled at the middle or near the touchdown?
Yeah,
No?
just flexed, or it was a really narrow field. I think that would be more sports should consider just altered dimensions. I think that would be fun.
Is take the windjammers approach. You ever play windjammers?
I am not familiar with
All
windjammers.
right, windjammers. Go Google it. It's a video game. It's a 1v1 type scenario, and you're like throwing a frisbee, and there's different goals and sizes. It's actually a ton of fun if you just want to like challenge a friend to a 2-minute game of trying to get the disc by them to score. I mean, it's fun.
Got it.
On to your story. I want to hear what you.
I think it's also a restaurant in Charleston, South Carolina, so they might appreciate the shout out. The Windjammer.
Very nice.
All right, I got a good one. It's a little bit of a sweet story more than like a pure fun story, but it was a lot of fun. My oldest son has gotten really into golf, and primarily he plays matches with the school team. And with those, you're not allowed to coach at all as a parent. He's got a team coach who's allowed to communicate things, but as a parent, you're not allowed to say anything kind of advice related, which you can understand why, right? Like, there's a lot of pretty bad parents out there who are intervening too much and whatnot. But on the weekends, he's doing this golf tournament called the Under Armour Tour, and I get to be his caddy. And oh my goodness, Butch, it is so much fun. The right before his first match, I take my role very seriously, and so I told him, look, while we're out here, I'm your caddy, not your daddy, and that's just been the key to a really fun 2 rounds. He's played his best 2 rounds on kind of 9-hole, kind of like full length courses have been while I've been his caddy. And after the rounds, both times, he said he thought he shot 5 shots better because I was his caddy than he would have done by himself, which was, I mean, melt my heart, young man. I mean, it just has been super fun. But, we really geek out about, I think this is a 6-mile right to left wind. That green up there, let's make sure we keep that bunker out of play on the left. And, we really dial it in. And so I think caddying, I'm not hugely into golf, starting to get into it more just with him in it. But, there's not a lot of sports that kind of have that role where you have someone along for the journey that's a supporter that, is, I think from tradition, it came from people playing the course for the first time, and like a local guide would, help them navigate the water and whatnot. So I was trying to think of other sports that have that type of figure. I mean, you have obviously coaches in almost every sport, but not like a part of the game that can actually affect the game in the midst of the experience.
I would say, race car driving. They're not in the car with you, but they're like on comms, checking things, watch your left, watch your right. Or what is that, like 4-wheel drive rally racing? There is like someone in the next seat who's like
an actual navigator
when turns are coming and stuff.
Yeah, that's cool.
I don't know what that person is called, but
yeah, I don't either. But yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, you got the bobsled team. There's like I think about that great movie, Cool Runnings. Yeah, that's the name of it.
Cool Runnings.
Yeah. Yeah, navigator. But yeah, so it was been super fun to be the caddy. And it's pretty tiring, honestly, just, out there just just walking holes. Of course, I'm carrying his clubs for him and all that. So it's that was my fun story for the week. Big question for you, Butch. Do you have? So it's your turn to pick a word. I was quite pleased with my Funhawg selection. I was down. My final three words were pernicious, dearth, and then I came up with Funhawg. So it's more challenging than you think to come up with a word that would be fun to discuss. But have you selected a word? Or are you ready to announce it to our listeners now?
I am not ready to announce it to our listeners now because there are some new constraints that have been placed on this word. It must be somewhat uncommonly used. What's the right word? Uncommon?
I mean, non-commonly. That would be... Non-commonly is not...
I'm sure by the end of our 10 episodes, we will have at least 12 new words created. Non-commonly being the first.
Is there...
So let's keep track of that somewhere.